Hi guys, Tendai here from CRMCS, and today I'm just going to be doing a quick demo video of how we configure entities in DocDrive. So first things first is if we create our or look into our contact entity that we have here, is we give our entity a name, we link it to that entity that we have. Default content type, if we do have any, or if we can create any, we can set that through here. The shared content types location, and for security is pretty default and pretty standard. We don't have to touch that. And mainly once we've done that, we kind of move into our DocDrive rules, where we create these rules, like as mentioned, as what they tell DocDrive what to do. So I'm going to look into the first rule that we have. And the first rule that we have is what we call a bucket location rule. So what we're going to tell DocDrive to do is, for the contact entity, we want DocDrive to create a document library. So as we can see here, we've kind of given it the name contact document library for our rule. This is a DS3 bucket location rule, and we set it to the document library as that's what we want DocDrive to create. And moving down to our map type, here we basically kind of configure DocDrive to tell it what do we want folders to be named, how we want them to be named. Is it a fixed mapping? Is it a field mapping, like to generate names from the fields? So as we can see here, we've got fixed mapping, and in the formula field here, we kind of put the name that we want our document library to be in. As we can see here, we've got contact documents, and that's pretty much it for our document library that we have here. So if we move into our second rule that we have for the contact entity, is we have a rule where we want to create a folder per contact. So what this rule is going to be doing is going to be creating a folder for each and every single contact that is created in CRM. So simple and straightforward, folder per contact. This one will be a record location rule, and we want it to be a folder. So pretty much straightforward. And this one, we want it to be field mapping. So we're basically, the folder name is going to be generated from a certain field, and we put that field in here, where we set that to be. So as here we've got full name, and here should be the contact entity. Then once we close that, that pretty much are our two rules for the contact entity. So what that does is, if we create a contact, what we want DocDrive to do is basically create a document library that we've named contact document, and we want it to create folder per contact, given the folder the full name, the name of the folder, the full name of that contact. So to put this to the test, I'll jump straight to our contacts here, and if we create a new contact, so we can just put TC, we can put my name there, we can put TC test or testing. Then once we save that, once we save that and we jump to our documents, so this is part of the DocDrive app. We kind of input this document tab in there. So this is where all our documents will be displayed within our DocDrive interface. So we get to this section to our DocDrive, and if we hit location here, this, as you can see, it will take us to SharePoint, to the location. So we've got our contact documents document library at the top there, or here, and we have our folder that we've created, TC testing, taking it from the full name of that. So if we hit contact documents here, we may see other few documents that we've been playing around with. As you can see there, we've got our contact, different contacts folders that we've created, and that one we've just created now. So to go back, I'm just going to go through another entity, just to show you how that works. And with this one, I'll be including lookup rule that we use with DocDrive. So if I jump into our entities here, and if I use, let me just double check which one we have. I can use request for financial assistance. So jump into this rule that we have. Pretty much straightforward. When we are creating our new entity, we give it our name, we link it to that specific entity through here. So as you can see, request for financial assistance, pretty much all these elements pretty much default here. and we save that. So then we move to our DocDrive rules, where we create a rule depending on what we want it to do. So the first rule that we have is a lookup rule. So what we want DocDrive to do here is when we create a request for financial, we want it to go to lookup as well to the relevant contact. So simply got a lookup rule here. So I want to look up to the contact. Initially, this should be contact here. Then we've got a DC to lookup rule to the parent record. We've got a subtype as lookup. We've got field mapping, so we link it to our contact entity. So that will look up to the contact itself, the relevant contact or the related contact. Then we move to our second rule. So what our second rule now will do is, okay, we've looked up to our contact. Once we've looked to the contact, what do we want to do? So as we can see here, our entity is request for financial assistance. So next thing is we'll create a bucket location rule where we want, so after we've kind of done our lookup, we want DocDrive to now create a folder for request for financial assistance that will sit where our lookup is within the contact folder. So pretty much simple and straightforward. We've got our request for financial assistance folder. We've got DS3 bucket location rule. We've got our rule type, which is a folder. We want this to be fixed mapping. We don't want the name to change, just a simple folder where the name is not going to change. So that's fixed mapping. And we input the name that we want the folder to be, which is request for financial assistance. And once that's done, we're going to move into our last rule that we have. And the last rule that we have is we're going to create a folder per request for financial assistance that we have. So I'll put all this to the test in the end, but just to see how we configure it all together. Simple rule again, we've got our bucket location rule. We input the name of the rule that we want. We've got a record location rule where we want it to be a folder, and we want this to field map, and we want the name of the folder to be this field, the new RFA aid, request financial aid. That's what we want the name of the folder to be, and that's pretty much it. So we save that, and now to put this to the test. So if I jump back to our just our little demo environment that we have, and if we navigate to request for financial assistance, and if we put in a new request, so I can completely call this test 2, and we can put an email in, just put my email in there, and we can look up to we can input our contacts that we've just created, linking it to that contact. That's what we want it to be. We can put an amount in there as well. We can put a type, financial B, any of the things. RFA ID is more of like a auto generate field. We don't have to put anything in there. If we save that now, and that gets saved, so as you can see, that's generated our RFA ID number. And if we hit documents, so we can either hit location at the top there. So as we can see, what that does now is it follows our first rule where it looks up to our contacts, and this can be any contacts in which we input at the start there. So we've got TC testing as the contact I've created. We've now created a request for financial assistance folder. So it's done that, and we've now got our folder for this simple request, the test 2 request that we've done. And as we can see, the name of the folder is generated from the RFA ID. So if I go back from like a step-by-step from SharePoint, as we can see, it kind of takes us through the steps. So if I go to my contact folder, so as we can see here, in my contact folder, DocDrive has done what we've told it to do from the request for financial assistance entity. Is it's created that folder that sits here, and if we jump into this folder, it's now creating a folder for each and every single request that we have for the contacts that we've created. And that's pretty much it. So as you can see, DocDrive works with many entities. There's no limit to the number of entities it can work with. We could always configure it to work with other entities, just like we've got requests for networking assistance, financial assistance. So we can always configure DocDrive to work with any entities. But that's pretty much it for this video. I mean, if you have any more questions, queries, anything you'd want to reach out to us for, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to assist. And thank you very much for your time.